Hello everyone, good afternoon, good morning. My name is George, and today I'll be doing another YouTube video, and I'll be talking about how to set up your virtual machines on your Linux system. And the reason why I decided to do this video is because virtual machines are one of those standard things we usually do. You will use them to create, of course, to set up your applications, test it, and then deploy it. Okay, so on Linux systems, virtualization comes enabled by default, and whichever version of Linux you're using, it is enabled. But on Windows, it's a bit different. You need to be using a minimum of Windows 10 Pro and I think Windows 8 Pro, and your license has to be activated for you to be able to use virtualization on a Windows system. So the steps I'll show you here are no different from when you have it on a Windows system, but for enablement you will need to I think manually do that either from your BIOS or from in your Windows setting. I think you could use Google to find out how that should be done. Okay, so let's begin. I bring up my Virtualbox manager. I had previously created, ran to completion the creation of a virtual machine, and I'll be showing you here how to set up this virtual machine, the settings and all what most of them mean, and so that you can fine-tune your own version, your own installation to suit your own resources and be able to run it smoothly with very little issues. Okay, so let's add a new virtual machine. Let me make this a bit bigger. Okay, so we call the virtual machine Ubuntu Demo 2. Okay, you notice that once you type this name here, the virtual machine is smart enough to pick the version of Linux you're trying to use. There are other versions here, so if it doesn't come out right, you can just come here and click and set up, assuming your system is a 32-bit uses a 32-bit architecture, then you could just come here and select that. All right, so the next thing, expert mode here, is simply shortens the steps you would need to go through to get to the end. If you know what you're doing, of course you could do that, but we'll be walking through each step so that we can carry along. So we increase our memory here. This is our RAM size to 2. The max is 12. My system is 12, but from the color of this properties window, you can tell that from here, from 4 to a max of 8 is what is expected or is advised, you know, so that you don't run into issues, because virtual machines actually would take part of your resources to run, while containers will actually share already running resources with your system. Note that virtual machines are referred to as guest OS, and the host, which is my own system, is referred to as the host. So in case I use those terms, you should understand what I'm talking about. Okay, we'll go to the next place. We would, for the hard disk, we will create a virtual disk now, and then we will take the VDI type, Virtualbox disk image. Then we have two options here: dynamically allocated storage or fixed. Dynamically allocated hard disk file will only use space on your physical hard drive as it fills up. So it actually just, assuming you actually set up 10 gig and only 2 gig is actually used to set up the virtual machine, then that only that 2 gig will actually be consumed on your hard drive. But for fixed size, that one will actually cut out that portion of your disk and set it apart, I believe, for usage, and so you would won't be able to access that part, you know, unlike the dynamic option, which actually, as your virtual machine grows, then more space will be allocated until it stops at the max size, which is the 10 gig you actually issued as the max size for your disk. Okay, so here we will see that a minimum of 10 gig can be used to run a Linux system, but here I'll make it up to say 25 so that we can do some partitioning. Okay, and we'll see how that goes. All right, so we click create. Okay, let's give it a few moments while that sets up. Okay, that's done. All right, that's done. This should disappear. If I'm not mistaken, it shouldn't be here. Why it hasn't disappeared is anyone's guess. Okay, hold on. Okay, let me close this window and see. If that doesn't happen, then we'll simply start all over again. Okay, so hold on. Okay, so that's done. Okay, let's go down. This is the Virtualbox virtual machine we just created. Let's look at some of the settings we want to alter. We want to remove the defaults and set it up in such a way that it will suit our purpose. Okay, so here we have general settings, we have this, then we have advanced. Now we have a shared clipboard. There's the option to share from host to guest and guest to host. Okay, in this case I like to do it bi-directional, so it depends on you. If you only want it to go from the virtual machine, which is guest to host, it's up to you. Same thing with drag and drop. Drag and drop simply means I can drag something from my host and drop it in the guest. I can also drag something from the guest and drop it in the host, and it will go. Description and also disk encryption. Assuming you want to encrypt your disk, you will do that here. Let's look at system. Here we have several options. Of course, our memory, our RAM, processor. We actually picked one here. You could pick two. Max is 4, half of what I have on my system. Okay, so I want to take this. Let me make it 2. Acceleration is enabled by default. Here I would pick enable EFI. Now EFI is an improved version of MBR. MBR, there is a master boot record. That is the formats in which your partitions are designed. Okay, this one makes it possible for you to have far more flexible options when compared to the MBR. MBR just has, I think, 4 primary partitions. If you want more, you pick up one primary partition, make it into a logical partition, and create several partitions from there. Okay, so I'll take the EFI mode because well, most modern, all modern operating systems use that as the means to boot. So let's look at display. I'll pick up memory 128. That's good because that will give your graphics video memory enough space to work with. Then of course graphics controller have 3 options. The default is fine. I've never had issues with that. I've not tried the other ones. Then here we now have to supply the ISO file that we'll be using to boot. This ISO file is no different. It's the same file you download and burn it to a USB stick or a disk and use that to set up your OS. In this case, we will be doing it virtually, so you will add it here. You can do it here now if you want, or you can wait till when you run this virtual machine. Then it will ask you for to supply the location of such a file, and when you do that, it will use that ISO file to install your system. So we'll pick that one here. I already I've used it severally, so that's it here. Now you see this option here, live CD / or DVD. Now, on Linux systems, if you have issues, say you have a wrong configuration and your system doesn't boot or something happened, usually what you do, you use a live disk or a live USB, and then boots into your system and check out any errors or any issues that may be there, correct them, and then exit out of the live environment and then boot normally, and then your system, if corrected properly, will now boot. So you can do the same thing with virtual machines. You can also have issues with your virtual machine. You could put in this ISO file that I did here, that is the one here, and then indicate that you want it to boot as a live system. Then you go in, make corrections, and then get out of there and then boot normally, and it will go. But something you need to note, which is extremely important, you can't use say you installed Ubuntu version let's say 20, and then you had issues with it, and then you now prepare a live disk with version 19.0. it won't work. Even for the LTS version, it has to be exactly the same version as the one you had installed, else the live disk, the live environment will not work properly. Okay, so we have that. Let's go to audio. Everything should be in order. We have several options. The default is fine. Network, we have NAT. We can have up to 4 adapters, interfaces in your virtual device. I'll go for let me include one more. Make it a bridge network, that's 2. Then serial ports, here you can enable connections to VGA plugs that you plug into your system. Now, for you to be able to use most of this and even the USB, here I will choose 3. Click this to see the options that are available. This is it. Okay, I'm able to see this because I've added myself to a special user group that is created during the installation of Virtualbox. Okay, so if you're not in that group, then that won't happen. I will show you how we can handle that. Now let's look at shared folders. Now shared folders are simply a means for you to say interact with contents from one area of your setup to another area, say from the host, from the host to the guest, and from the guest to the host. So if I just put that, if I don't enable that option, then it's possible for me to drag contents from my host system, drop it in there, and go to my virtual device, and of course that will be there. So let's add that now. Okay, let's click on this. It will present us with the pop-up window. We'll now go to my shared folder. I actually created a default shared folder, so all my virtual devices use that default shared folder. That is for those that I have enabled that option for. Okay, there it is, shared folder. I click that, I add it. All right, so I can make it read only. That means it can be modified. Okay, so say the guest OS will not be able to write to it, but it can read from it if that's what you want. Auto mount, that means at every startup for the virtual machine, I want that to be mounted automatically. Other than that, you have to do it manually. Okay, from the guest operating system. Now you could specify where actually in the virtual machine, the guest OS, that you want this folder to be mounted. Okay, all right. So it's up to you. Then I click OK. Now interface, this is for your virtual box interface. When you launch it, you can specify several things: input, view, machine, and all that. You can just play around with it and the GUI, and of course see what you can make appear and what you can make disappear. Well, it depends on you. All right, so this, of course, if you click on this, this will be presented to you and the rest of them. So just play around with the settings and see what options and what it gives you, what the results will be. All right, so let's begin. All right, so with that, we can just OK here, and then this should disappear. Okay, so we have that ready, and then we'll click start. All right, so it's asking us to supply the disk to run. We already supplied the ISO file, so we don't need to do that. Just simply click on cancel and it will boot normally. If you didn't supply this when you started, then this is where you actually would tell it where to find that ISO file that that we added previously. Okay, so here now we can pick several options, and that's because we have enable UEFI. That's why we see these options. If you didn't, then you will not be able to see these options. So here we'll pick install Ubuntu Safe Graphics. That's the option we'll pick. Okay, so we just give it a moment. So while that is coming up, let me quickly show you this. Now let me open a new tab and then zoom in a bit. Now I was saying something about belonging to a certain group. That group gives you access to options that makes it possible to connect hardware from your host onto your guests. You can share this. You can plug in a USB and you'll see it in your virtual machine. You could actually connect to several monitors from your virtual machine as a result of plugging in their input and output cables into your own system. Okay, so let me show you the groups I belong to. Okay, the group I was referring to is this group, VBox users. If you are not a member of this group, then you will not be able to have access to those options that I mentioned. I have done a video on how to add yourself to a group. Please check that one out as part of my Linux soft entry. Use that to actually add yourself to this group, and you will need to, most likely you will need to reboot your system, restart your system to be able to actually have this take effect. Although there are some hacks around how to go about doing that, but the best option is just reboot, and then that will now add you to this group, and then you have access to those functions and options. Okay, so our system is booting normally. This is what you normally would see if you were doing this on your system. It's no different. It's a virtual device. A lot of stuff, in short, virtual tech is so advanced that you basically might not be able to tell if it's a virtual device or a real physical device. Okay, so let's give this a moment. I will doing partitionings here. I will show you how partitions are done, and after that I will not go through with this installation because it takes a bit of time to get it set up, downloading and updating and all that. Then I would now go and transfer. I will switch to the version I actually had gone through to the end using the same configurations, and then I'll show you some basic setups that you need to do in order to be able to start using your virtual machine. Okay. So let's give it a few minutes and the process should start. Now my Linux system is dual booted with Windows. If you want to do that, there are several things you will need to, of course, Google on that topic to see how to prepare your system and Windows to be able to dual boot. Of course, you will create a space from Windows, and then it is that space you will install your Ubuntu into. Then there are several things you need to switch off on Windows. One of them is fast boot, and the other one is secure boot. Now secure boot, Linux kernels are usually signed, but in case you have issues you might need to switch that off. Then another thing you might need to work on is the we have I think hard disk type or version, or hard disk controller. Your hard disk controller, Windows uses a slightly different type of controller for its hard disks, and then Linux uses a different one. So, but before you begin, please Google it, take your time to read through the literature, Don't be in a hurry to do boots without having enough information so that you don't run into issues, because if you do, you might destroy your system. And of course, best practice, save backup before you do anything, in case you destroy your system. Then you can recover, use that backup to recover your system. Okay, so just give it a few moments and okay. But of course, in as much as virtual machines are good, but at times you might not really need to use virtual machines. You might simply need to just use a container, Docker container, to do what you need to do. So you decide on which is most appropriate for you, whether to use a Docker container or to use a virtual machine. The major difference is that Dockers are lightweight. Virtual machines really consume resources on your system, while containers will actually share with you, share what is available. So they're kind of containers are more like an application, so you just launch it. They are both applications, but the virtual containers are like you just click on application and launches, but virtual machines are more heavy, you know. So you decide which one is best for you. All right, so okay, this is taking far more than, but hopefully okay. All right, so another thing you need to note, once your virtual device starts running, you can actually close this window, Virtualbox Manager. You can close that one. It won't stop the process. Okay, I think it's ready. It won't stop the process, it will continue. So you can just close that one. And of course, as everything Linux, you can actually run and do all this from your terminal if you wanted to. Okay, that is a bit more involved, but you could use that in scripts to automate the process of creating virtual machines. So it's up to you which one is best for your situation. Okay, I should be seeing some actions here, but it's kind of not happening. Oh, definitely something is up. Okay, it actually is showing us. Oh, we're having issues, but let's see. Let's see. Okay. Normally you would have stopped the video and then have it go through and then we connect, but this OBS, I don't know how to do that, so we just have to sit tight, and in a few minutes, a few more minutes actually, it will come through and then we can go on to the next thing. Still trying to mount this. I don't know. All right, so after a long wait, it finally went through. So this is the first window. We choose English or any language. That's your default. Then this is my keyboard. Mine is English US. You pick that which is yours, or you click on detect keyboard layout, and the system will ask you to type in a few and then use that to determine which is your type of keyboard. So install third-party software, especially for your graphics. That's important. You select that. Minimal installation will actually just install a web browser and basic utilities. You would use that if you just want to have a very small, not too heavy virtual machine instance, you know. Just maybe you want to run that some test on it, so you don't need to actually put in a lot of stuff. You just the barest minimum, and so that it's lightweight. Okay, so wait for the next screen, and it's usually advisable to enable updates, so that any new updates that is out there, maybe it is a newer kernel than the one you currently intending to use, then that will be updated with the new features of the latest version, and then you'll have that. So on virtual machines, you might ignore that if you want to, but if you're installing that on your computer, your laptop, your desktop, then you need to, or your workstation, then you need to actually enable that option, so you have the latest version of Ubuntu and all the updates that it comes with. Okay, so let's give it a few. Okay, we're here. Okay, so now we'll be looking at advanced features. Let's this one will actually raise the disk and install Ubuntu. Let's see what other features comes with this. We could enable logical volume management. Now this is an advanced file system in which you could actually alter the size of your hard disks depending on how you use it. You could initially start with, let's say, 50 gigs, and you only use like 10, you know, allocate 10 to your logical volumes, and as your use grows, you give it more size and the rest of them. Actually, you could connect this to a central disk that so many machines could use as their own hard disk, and then partition it and allocate size based on your needs. Okay, so we are not doing anything here. Let's go over here and let's look at what we could do here. So I actually gave 25 gig size. Okay, 27. So I'm going to split it into home, var directory, and then the root directory. So let's start with one. Let's start with var. I will make var, okay, I'll make var 10. Okay, we'll click on this and we'll click on this plus sign, make it 10. Sorry, let me, all right, so one, no, it's not working. All right, gig, then it's a primary partition, and where we will mount our root. You could just click here and pick any one. So I'm picking this. Okay, then I click on this again. This time this will be for my home directory. I'll make that 10 too. Apparently my keyboard isn't working the way I expected. Okay, I'll make that 10 too, and then I will pick home. I'll pick home, and then I would pick, let the last one be for var. Var folder usually changes, so pick that one and then okay. All right, okay, that's done. Then after that you will click install and you will ask for confirmation, and then you go ahead. Now normally we have options, default options, so you could take that one. For beginners, that's what you should do, but for people who have actually gone a bit, then you can just share this as you wish. Okay, so let's stop this here, and then we will return to, I will now launch the one I've actually run through to the end. Okay, all right, so let me cancel this. Let me just go through and get to that part, and then say continue and continue. All right, continue. Continue, and okay, so you put in your location. Mine is this, that, okay, and then continue. Then of course you put in your name, okay, and your password. Okay, this password is weak, but it will still accept it. But of course, if you're running on a system that production, then you pass in a stronger password. Okay, it starts to do its thing. Of course, this is where it goes. So I'll stop this here, okay, and then show you the finished version of this installation that I'm trying to do here. Okay, so that one is off. Let me destroy this completely, remove all the files. Okay, and then let me launch the one I created, which is Ubuntu demo. Let me launch that one. Let me launch that one, and then all right, let me launch that one, and then Okay, this one I have created it previously using the same configurations, and so using the same configurations as the one I just did, and so this is the finished version of that installation. So I'm going to launch it. I'm going to launch this, and then we will walk through how to set this up. There's some things you need to set up. As you can see, the display is limited, just this small block here. Okay, that's the display. We need to make it bigger so that it reaches the whole of this. It covers the whole of this, and of course, just like it would on our screen. So let's give that a few minutes. Let this come up. When it does, then I would show you how to go about doing that. First thing first, of course, you need to add yourself to the VBox users group, and then we will see what we'll do on our system to get it to actually take the right resolution to have it display and present itself in a way that is more like that of our own host OS. I hope this won't take that as long as the other one did. It shouldn't, because this has already been set up, so it should just present this to us. Okay, so it's cleaning up our file systems, any unused unused inodes that were located and weren't used will be cleaned up and then made available to the system. Okay, so just one moment and it will soon be coming up. Let me bring this and then bring it up again. Oh. Come. Okay. Okay, so I can actually close this. I don't need this to be running, so I can close this window. Okay, so we're up and running. Okay, so that's it. You click in here and then type in the password you created previously, and Okay, so as you can see, the window is very limited just here. Okay, it should be up to this point. So let's bring up our terminal. Control Alternate T, as after clicking in this window, should bring up our terminal. Let's see. Okay. Okay, so this comes up first because it's the first time you're launching it after creation. You could set up your accounts, Ubuntu single sign-on. You could do for Google, Nextcloud, and Microsoft. I'll skip this, and I would ask that you allow setup live patch, because this will patch your kernel with any new updates. So I have a username that's associated with Canonical, and that helps me to set this up. I don't have this here, so let me go to next so that I don't start looking for the password and try and put it here. So let me not bother myself with that. Okay, so help improve, you could come in here if you wanted to. You could say yes. I selected, by default is yes anyway, so you could say no and then click next. Okay, so these are common snaps that you can work with if you wanted to. So it's done. I'm not installing anything, so okay, that's gone. All right, so one of the things we will need to be able to build the modules that will enable our screen to be bigger, take a bigger resolution, is to install I think they call them, I've even forgotten what it's called, but there's a package we're supposed to install. I've forgotten. Let me quickly search for that. There's a package we're supposed to install. Let me search for that. All right, so let me come here. Okay, build essential. I remember that. So let's go back here. So say sudo apt. Oh, I actually clicked. Oh gosh, that is gone, and it's even larger. Let's bring it back here. Okay, so let's click in here, and a new one has come up. So let's click this, and then right click here and say always on top and always visible. So this takes this long. This setup took this long because it's EFI. If it's MBR, it won't take this long. So it says sudo apt install build essentials. Let's see if I have, it should be an S. Okay, you supply the password you had used. Okay, so it's building. So you supply the password, and then let's see if so that's what you're supposed to. Sudo apt install build essential. It should install your C++ compilers and everything you would need, because we will be installing a module. We'll be running an installation that will need those tools to be able to build the modules that make it possible for our virtual machine to take the full screen resolution of our computer display, so, or to mimic the display and resolution of the host OS. So let's hope that this doesn't take too long to get done. My internet should be sharp. Hopefully it will be fast enough to finish this in a few minutes. All right, so reading our packages, our package lists, and then it will search for build essential. If it's present, it will install it. If not, it tells you it's not present, then you need to enable any repository or add any repository that has that particular tool in its okay. So all right, so that's it. All right, so say yes. All right, so let's hope the internet will be fast to install this and then build. Okay, without doing this, the next step we want to take will not work. So just give it a few moments. Okay, 40%, that's fast. So let's just give it a few moments and it will be up and running very soon. Sorry, my internet is not super fast like most of yours, so you just bear with mine. In a few minutes we'll be done, at least for the first part. Then the second part will run that in application. Of course, before you can do this, you need to install the guest additions. Let me show you what I mean. Let's bring up the manager. Let's click here and go to preferences, I believe. Okay, preferences, and then okay, go to extensions. Oracle VM VirtualBox extension pack. You need to install that one for the exact version of VirtualBox that you have. Without that, you won't be able to do what we're trying to do. Now, the reason why I'm trying to do that stuff is that one, it takes up the resolution of the screen, and then it makes interaction between the guest OS and the host OS easier. Okay, so you need to install this to be able to do that. Okay, so let's close this one. Let's go back here. Let's click on this. Okay, 97. So we're good to go very soon. All right, so it starts to build and install, compile and install. Or install and compile. Of course, the compiler has been installed now, so it would install those, and then we will use that to carry out the next task. Normally, if you are installing an Ubuntu server, that doesn't come with a GUI, a desktop. You would have this window remain the way it is this way. You don't need to have it larger than this because for servers you don't need GUI. You mostly use or totally use a command line to interact with the server. Okay, you just that in case you're installing the server version and you discover that you can't find this desktop, Genome desktop, you need to understand that on servers you don't need desktops to actually work with them. You simply use the command line to work with them. But of course, if you intend to install the desktop, there's no problem, you can do that. I have several versions of my Ubuntu servers I've installed, some with desktops and some with none, with no desktop. So it depends on you. So let's hold on, let's see what these guys are up to. Okay, So it's like when we minimize it, it runs faster. Okay, 5%, 90. Okay. I noticed because the screen isn't that wide, you need to actually move things around in this fashion. So we need to have the screen take up, mimic the resolution of our own system, so that you can interact with the virtual device as though you were interacting with your own operating system on the host OS. Okay, so give it just 1%. Let's minimize this. It appears when we do that, it works faster. Let's bring it up again. Let's 2% this time. Okay, let's bring it down again. Let's just hold on a bit. Okay, so let me minimize this so that it can run kind of in the background. So all right, so okay, so I would stop the video, and when it's done, we will come back to continue. Okay, so we are back. It's at 99 now. It took quite a bit, so when you run it from your end, you need to be aware it takes a couple, depending on the speed of your network. If your network is extremely fast, then you wouldn't have issues. It would do that in a couple of minutes, but mine is a bit slow, not super fast, and so it took a few minutes to get done, but it's at 99%. And just give it a few seconds. It should. Okay, all right. Obviously the 99% is the 1% remaining is quite much or lengthy, big. Okay, so I would stop and return when it's true. Okay, just stay tuned. All right, so we are done. It's been set up. So the next thing we need to do, you come up here, click on device and click on insert. Okay, we insert a disk that contains some scripts that we need to run. Okay, I think I better close this one, quit this terminal. It should show up here. I've not seen that. Let's do it again. Insert guest addition CD image. Okay, let's see. Could not mount this. Perhaps it's mounted already. Okay, it is mounted already. So let's, okay, click on that. It's taking quite a bit. Put it in a new window. Okay, run software. Okay, click on run to ask you for your password. Okay, let's close this. Close this. It's there's a lag, so when we run it, it actually takes a bit of time. Let's close this. Okay, all right, there goes it. Let's put in our password and then it builds the module. So these are the things inside this disk, virtual disk. So we're supposed to run each package is tuned, is designed for a particular system. Okay, so we have Solaris, have Windows, we have Linux, so this is the one we're running. Okay, so just click here or you use the normal. Okay, so let's build that. Let me zoom in a bit. Once it builds that, you will see that it will take up the whole screen, or we will simply just restart and then it should do that. Okay. All right, so once those modules are set up, I will come back and then we should see the changes. All right, so let me get back to you. Okay, so we are back and it's finished. So as you can see, we need to hit the return key to close this window. Okay, everything, the guest additions have been built and installed. So let's hit the key. All right, so that's that. Okay, and then normally it will just come up. So let's eject this. Okay, eject that one. Let's restart this. So click here, power off, and then we'll select restart the system. All right, so I'll be back when the restart is complete. Okay, so the restart is done, so let's log in now and see if the resolution will improve. It should improve. It should improve. Okay. Okay. Right. It didn't improve. What happened? What happened? What happened? Should have improved. Okay, so maybe we'll run that again. Okay, so let's, all right, hold on, let me minimize this and maximize it. It's still the same. It should have improved. Okay, so let's do that installation again and see what happens. Okay, we'll quickly do that and I'll get back to you. All right, so we are done. We restarted it and it still didn't scale accordingly. So I clicked here and went to auto resize display, and I did that and it went back. Let's click on that, see if it returns. It doesn't. It remains where it is. So if you try that, it doesn't work, that just come here after installing that module and then click here. So you see now we now have a virtual machine different from my normal machine. This is my system. Click here, it brings this one up. So this is my machine. Let me bring up terminal in here. Note that when you want to work inside this virtual machine, you need to actually click in it. Make sure you click and then it has focus, then you do what you need to do. Let me check the file system, that partition table, partition type, block file. All right, so that's it. This is for boots. Okay, then this it's already 52% filled. Oh, amazing. And this other one, home, is 1% and var is 31%. So that's our setup. Okay, so if you have that on normal, basically that's it for setting up a virtual machine. If you were using setting up a server, a Ubuntu server, then you wouldn't need to have all this scaled, you know. You just leave it and use the terminal and then work with that. Okay, so that's how you set that up. So let's shut this one down from here. Sudo shut down now. Okay, given password and it will shut down. Okay, so let that one, that's that for that. Okay, thank you for watching, and leave your comments and your likes if any areas you didn't understand. It takes quite a bit. It's not as you would give like 2-3 hours to get it done, depending on your network and depending on things you need to fix. So it's as straightforward as that. Thank you for watching and have a nice day. Bye bye.